Welcome to the Beyond Cinema Studio presented by Celebs.com up here at Sundance. Maggie Siff, Robin Weigert. Firstly, how does it feel? I mean, the movie just premiered yesterday at the library, middle of the day. You've had like a day to process. Had either of you seen it in its entirety?
I hadn't seen anything.
Yeah.
I had seen more than she had, but I had not seen this finished thing. No.
And so what did you feel? How was it?
Oh gosh, you speak first on this.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
you can collect
Because
yourself.
I'll have to
Robin
collect
was
myself
like,
to answer that question. Yeah. So.
I thought it was really it was exciting to see the whole thing. I mean, the amazing thing, and we've talked about it a bunch, is that Stacey's a first-time writer-director, but she had such a confident script, and then she had a really confident directing style, and the result is a really confident film. And it was just exciting to see that ended in that was the result of what we intuited would be true about it. And it's shot. The other thing about seeing it is that it's shot so beautifully. We had this really young, amazing cinematographer who just did an incredible job. And then, there's a lot about it that is sort of like, as an actor watching it, I mean, the scenes that I was in, at least, the film, I think, has these moments of great intimacy, and when you're inside of those scenes and you're seeing it on a screen that is massive in a room full of all of these people, it's kind of like you just like want to go away. But I take that as a good sign, because I think that the film really captures what actual physical intimacy between people is, psychologically and energetically, and I think it made everybody, you could sort of feel in the audience that sort of like, but not in a way that was distancing the way physical intimacy often is in film, I find.
Are you good at, like, let's say, watching Sam on screen and engaging yourself in the story, or do you go, I remember that day, is it more like a documentary for you?
I don't know that I can describe it. It's so many things at once. Yes, you flip back and forth in your mind between, oh yeah, I remember that dog, and that dog was a real pain in the ass, and wow, Robin and I had a hard time doing that, and oh, that was cut, and interesting that they edited it that way, and then you have moments where you're just in it, and it kind of flip-flops back and forth in my brain, at least.
Yeah. Well, I was glad I waited that one out because and listened to you because it gives me a couple, and also your question, because it was a lot more of an intense experience for me than I sort of expected, and I knew this would be in front of people, and I knew it was incredibly intimate, and at the same time it was my whole nervous system was jangled as it was going on, and I do think part of it is connecting with what was happening as we were shooting, and then also connecting with the story, and then also connecting with the character, and all the many layers of what you're remembering physically and emotionally from the whole experience. I mean, it was just quite a lot.
I could imagine, though, as an actor, you probably had those feelings reading the script, for you at least, knowing that you're going to be in 100 plus scenes of this film, and having to go through all this.
Like almost the foresight of
whether like it's nerves or excitement or both. Did you have that kind of fear, like an exciting fear?
I have a strange little wristband on from the gifting suite. I had.
It's not a Lance Armstrong.
This is not a fashion choice.
Yeah.
She wasn't hospitalized.
Yes, I was not hospitalized
After the
recently,
premiere.
although maybe I should have been.
Was there fear, or was that excitement?
Of course, I think also I had never had that particular challenge before. I think there was something like 130 scenes, and also whenever it's on a tight budget, it's going to have to be fast, and and it also most of it required a tremendous amount of just opening and diving in, So I did know it would be a lot, but I don't think you ever really know anything until it's happening.
To be willing to give that level of intimacy, though, to a filmmaker who hasn't proven themselves yet,
correct? Yeah.
Is that also part of the package of, okay, this is going to be super interesting? And what did you need when you first sat down with Stacey, wherever it was, in a cafe somewhere or by Skype? What did you need?
Brooklyn, yeah.
What did you need from her to make you think, she's got it?
I guess I first and foremost needed to feel like we connected, almost I would say intellectually, like, that this was someone who thought in a way, like, that we had a language we could speak with each other, so that she would be interpretable to me and I would be interpretable to her, and we wouldn't be lost in that way, and I also appreciated that she didn't soft pedal any of it or try. It was no selling involved really. It was clear she wanted me to. It was clear she wanted me to do it. But if there were things that I confessed frightened me or something, she didn't sort of bend over backwards to ameliorate those fears. Instead, what she said is, "I understand those fears and they're legitimate." You know what I mean? She didn't say, "Don't worry, you'll be so taken care of." It was like, "Yes, I completely understand. That would be very frightening." And I would understand if that made you run away, and all of that. And then I was like, okay, I guess I have to do this all myself and figure out that I want to do this. I like that approach. I like the psychology of that approach, because whenever somebody tries to say, do it, there is a thing. I mean, I guess there's some method to that madness of it. I don't know that she was manipulated. I don't feel manipulated by it. I felt like that's just who she is. She's very honest.
Did she show you materials of, did she show you commercials that she'd done and things like that, or did she leave that alone?
To look at. It was really a lot on trust, and trust is a huge element of such an endeavor. And the thing is, once you've committed, you have no choice but to trust. You don't have an option, I don't think. And
it's funny how these, it's a miracle, it's sort of on this end of it, you're like, wow, it is a miracle that this movie got made and that this movie is here. And it's like, there are all these little things that add up to the miracle happening, like Stacy being as bright as she is, you two having that connection. She also had Rose Trochet sort of really championing her, and she's a very bright, woman as well, and then
managers and such can say, well, if Rose Trochet's on the project, you get that kind of.
There's just like all these little things that sort of like nudge you in that direction, and then Robin was like reached out to people that she knew and trusted, and so Robin was like, I think you should look at this script, and I read it and loved it, and I'm like, well, Robin has signed on. I have so much respect for her and her intelligence, and and then I had a conversation, and it's just like, okay, so Robin, Stacy, Rose, this could happen, this could be okay, this could be more than okay, and then the elements just accumulate, but it's just, you look back and you're like, how did that ever actually
especially because some of the acknowledgements that she received, from IFP and Adrian Shelley and stuff like that, and the Dream grant, that came later on. I mean, it was it was already too late to go back at that point. So it's almost like, we give you a stamp of approval. It's like, cool, I could have done with that a year ago. That kind of thing.
Right, to pull it together.
Yeah, exactly. Were you in New York, living in New York?
No, I was in LA. I am in LA, although my life takes me back and forth a fair amount, just anyway.
Because what I find interesting about this as well is that it's, being set in New York, it's one of those places where even though there's millions of people, the ability to get away with perhaps living a double life seems possible, despite the density. So for you, was shooting in New York and being on the East Coast, did that add something to it? Did it give you, or is it just being away from home?
Manhattan and Montclair and the juxtaposition of those two is a huge part of the story. I mean, I don't think this story could be located anywhere else, really.
I love that scene in the movie where you walk by those two women walking down the street, the sort of cool-looking women, and then you kind of watch them go by, and then you pull out your lipstick and put on a little lipstick. And it's such a New York moment. I mean,
How are they doing it?
Yeah.
Was that a specific direction too, the humor in the film? Because even that moment when you're bloody and being beamed, you don't see the blood until that moment when you turn. And it's weird because if you just read cold what this movie was about, you wouldn't experience that.
It was one of the very gratifying things about the screening, was realizing how much laughter there was. I knew that there was humor in the script, but it's a question of whether that will play. And I just am always so encouraged by laughter. I feel like it tells you that people are with the story. Yeah. And there are many moments of that, especially in the first third of the film.
But also, when you talk
Yeah.
to Stacey, she has a really good
She's
sense
got a
of humor.
sense of humor. Yeah.
She's got a great sense of humor. So once you know her, and then you feel the script vibrating with who she is, you knew that there was going to be humor in it.
Yes.
I think right at this moment she's off selling the film,
Yeah.
so which is pretty exciting because
Yeah.
I mean, as an actor, especially, you just don't know where it's going to end up.
Yeah, it generated a lot of interest. I think the screening too, which was very gratifying. I mean, I think that's always the thing. The day of, you're always sort of holding your breath. I think what's the response going to be?
Is there that kind of element as well for you personally? That I mean, the character's doing something completely reckless and dangerous. Was it for you coming on board this film? Did it feel a little reckless and dangerous?
Yeah, of course, of course. The answer is implicit in the question. I think, it's like yes, it did. But that also was part of the seduction of wanting to do it. Was that it didn't feel safe.
Yeah, because it's interesting
Yeah,
because the
yeah.
Sessions, which was the surrogate, obviously here
Right.
last year,
Yeah,
and in which you have like a smaller role,
sure. Yeah.
that was so warmly received as well. And do you feel like this gives you an opportunity to kind of showcase?
Well, I think what's so interesting about talking about the two films together, they obviously don't intend to bisect with each other because neither filmmaker can tell each other, but there is something about dealing with sex as what it is. It's something positioned sort of as a middle thing, like a central thing in who we are. And the way it's usually used is as this sort of titillating thing that's not to do with the deepest aspects of who we are. And both of these movies place it, in its rightful place, which is to say in the middle of our being, and that is a good trend, if it is a trend. I think it's a good trend because it allows the conversation to be it's not just ooh, it's an adult conversation that gets to happen then.
It's kind of cool for both of you though, because I mean, Deadwood was such a masculine kind of atmosphere. Sons is definitely all about testosterone. So to go from that set to this set, or even when you worked with Helen Hunt, to go with that sort of this sort of environment, it must, for you as an actor, feel like, oh, I had a really amazing year. I got to be this kind of level of intensity and this kind of level of intimacy.
Yeah, I love working on the show, and but it is it's a world that's told through a very male, heterosexual lens, and it interests me, and I really am interested in the characters, and I think it's an unusual story on television and stuff, but I feel like the true intimacy that's at the heart of this movie and the questions that it's asking are, really close to my heart. And I'm just grateful that I have time in my year to do things like this.
A show, a movie, a play.
Yeah.
Show,
It's
I'm living the dream.
dream.
Shot,
Yeah, that's a good year.
Very cool. Well, we appreciate you guys spending a few minutes with us as well.
Yeah,
So thanks so much.
Thank you.